like that.
Nice.
What's it like? I was actually there in attendance in Cleveland for Coe's first career NFL touchdown, which was awesome. And,
Awesome.
It was a great game. You could hear me on camera. I was just screaming, "Say it ain't so, Coe! Say it ain't so!" Sadly, from there, the game kind of went off the rails a little. That was the last high moment of that game, but it was a great game. Overtime loss, fun time.
Yeah.
But how was that moment for you? Seeing the first, whether it was on TV, in person, wherever you were, seeing his first NFL touchdown. How was that?
Well, dude, I mean, we were at home because it was a away game. We don't travel to a lot of the away games because we can get into that later. But, to watch that and to think I wished I was there live. So to have your video was so cool. And just say, this is so cool. I mean, that was so cool for us. Catching it from Tom Brady, right? Like, he's got the ball yet. I mean, first NFL touchdown means a lot, right? I mean, as a dad, that's so cool to see. And it was fun to watch. And, it didn't have the outcome we wanted, but still the same. What a memory! What a memory to have, right? So,
and honestly,
cool.
those. One of the best guests ever, the Buccateers in the house tonight. You guys hear him on Tampa radio all the time. He's one of the best in the business. My favorite personal in the business. That's why I'm elated tonight. Growing up in the Chicago area, you're used to sports radio. That's what gets me through the day. So this man does help get me through the day, I will say, with the Pat and Aaron show at work. Nothing like it. So it's incredible. It looks like we got Stunna bumbling in. I'm Tampa Tones. We are joined by lead goon tonight, host of the Pat and Aaron show of WDAE, Pat Donovan. And it sounds like Stunna is bumbling a little bit. Going to put him on mute for a second until that gets a little clear. But we're joined by Pat Donovan.
It looks like Stunna is hanging out with Cheech and Chong in a car with the windows up or something over there.
It does look like you got a little...
No, my camera's broke.
And he was trying to pull me in big time. And then I was like, hey, nothing's happened with Indianapolis yet. Like, I really want to give Indy a chance. And then also I talked to Cody Gruden, once he took over Rich McCann, and still like, well, look, I was like, y'all just give me the opportunity to explore free agency, see what's going on, and then kind of make us do it.
All right, everyone, you are tuned into the Buccateers at wide receiver, Kalen Geiger, and we are about to have a great pod. This is the Buccateers. You're tapped in, and here we go. Howdy ho, howdy hey, how the hell is everybody? Welcome back into the Buccateers podcast on a Mancave Monday with Bucs by 30, Zach Johnson and myself, Tampa Tones, here on the program. And we got a great guest today in the house as well. Everybody will appreciate. Friend of the program's been on a handful of times in years past, and we have him back yet again, and he's on the victorious side, so he's probably in a good mood right there. You see him celebrating Victory Monday. Front of the program's former college football athlete himself and current lifelong member of Bills Mafia, the great Brad Thompson. Brad, how the hell you doing? Welcome back, brother.
Oh, it's good to be back. How are you boys doing? I know it's not Victory Monday, let me say, but hope you guys are doing well.
Yeah, we're trying to do well on this Monday. Doom and gloom a little bit, Zach, but we're going to, try our best to bounce back as we have to in quick order for the Rams, their toughest stretch of the season so far, dropping New England, dropping Buffalo, and here we are facing a Sunday night countdown against the Rams. I will say, for as good as New England and Buffalo are, Zach, you mentioned something earlier, which I think was a good point in years past, what the Bucs would have done in those losses, perhaps.
Yeah, we've shown this year that at least we deserve to be in the game, right? We haven't got the brake speed off of us or anything thus far. The Detroit game, the score was it looked a little bit more lopsided than it actually was. But I mean, I didn't feel until the fourth quarter of this game when Todd punted on 4th and 2 in the fourth quarter. Like as soon as we punted, I was like, that's a game right there. You can't give the ball back to Josh at that point. you've got to be aggressive. We should have ran it on 3rd and 2 and then went for it on 4th if we didn't get it. But punting there is not ideal.
Our guy Pepin Steppin says, what a trash game. Our defense played like shit. It's why I was hoping we would go after cornerback or D lineman before the deadline. We're actually going to have a little fun talk here, Zach, Brad, and I, and we're going to say what we wish the Bucs might have done at the deadline, and Brad's going to give his input on if the Bills should have made a move at the deadline or stayed put or not. But Brad, as a Bills guy, first and foremost, plug your Twitter. Where can the people keep up with you there? And secondly, how did you feel kind of watching the game unfold? We kind of were chatting a little bit before the game, and then we were chatting a little bit today. Obviously, it felt like the Bucs were kind of up and running with that one right out of the gates. Josh Allen got pressured, turned the ball over, but it seemed like the Bucs really never took advantage of them making some big plays. And next thing you know, the Bills hung around and kind of just pulled it out and ran away with it late.
Yeah, pretty much what you said, right? And I texted you. I'm like, that game could have been and should have been probably 13-0 Bucs, if not 17-0 Bucs early. You saw rookie Josh Allen back out there again, which has been our kind of Achilles heel. We've been making fun of him all year. That progression is another whole side show to talk about where Josh Allen is. So I won't get too much into it, but it's been like that kind of all year, right? And then he's turned it on a couple times in the fourth quarter late. But those mistakes early, you just can't have some of them. I mean, I would say probably half were forced. There was another play, the Bills' first real possession, I would call it, after the big kick return by Hardman. And I believe it was 2nd or 3rd and long, and he threw it right in between 2 or 3 Bucs. And I believe they collided or something. The ball falls to the ground. But 2 of his first 3 passes of the game could have been picks. So as Bills fans, it's a here we go again. And he ended up not having to wait to the fourth quarter in this one. But is to the former point is I don't think the Bucs necessarily lost the game. They were never out of the game. You had a chance down to really the 2-minute mark. And as a Bills fan, it's kind of how our season has gone. So I will say that, you look at the games that you're in, is one play here or there. Are you going to win those games? And obviously come playoff time, that's when you actually have to do it. Right. But did you play with the upper echelon teams in this league? Are you getting blown out? We've had really one bad loss, and that was unfortunately last week that we did bounce back from the Dolphins. But all those other ones, the losses to the Patriots and stuff, it's 1-score game. So, you don't lose sleep over it. We have 17, you have 6 at the helm. You would like to think that talent does rise come playoff time, hopefully.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. And I was talking with Zach, and I was telling him how, hey, kind of, when we were the healthiest, we did go 3-0 against teams that right now would either be in the playoffs or the Texans knocking on the doorstep of the playoffs. So we beat the Texans, Seattle, pretty impressive, in San Fran. And then you get banged up along the way. But as you said, are you actually hanging with those teams? And the Bucs are doing just that, which bodes well for the playoffs. We're about 3-4 against playoff caliber teams right now. So, and as you alluded to, rookie Josh Allen, that's absolutely correct. But he's going to get pissed off and run the ball, and that's what he did. 3 rushing touchdowns. But Brad, watching the game, and then we'll get Zach's take on this. It was abysmal as a Bucs fan to kind of sit back and watch that return game just have its day. Every return, Mecole Hardman at first, and he got banged up, and then backup running back Johnson comes in and still has the same success. Has that kind of been the case all year for the Bills return game, or was that a one-off kind of symbolizing that, man, maybe the Bucs are struggling a little bit with that return coverage?
I would look in the mirror on that one, because it tells you all you need to know. We went and signed Mecole Hardman off the couch this week, right? So, we started the year with a guy named Codrington, who we traded for at the deadline last year. He ended up muffing a punt, which cough, cough. Hardman did as well later on in the game before he went out with the injury. And then they tried Ray Davis. And then oftentimes we're going back to 1990 mode. We put Khalil Shakir back out there to call a fair catch and the sure-handed guy, whatever you want to call it, right? And that's where the Bills' return game was, and hence why you see them dipping into the very low totem pole at the free agency market at the receiver. Because to your point that we'll talk about later, we did not go after anyone at the deadline. Shaheed was talked about here, who would have also been helping the return game. So you never know on that route. So the Bills are dipping anywhere they can. Come playoff time, if you remember early in the McDermott days, when we first got into the playoffs, we put Micah Hyde back there actually. And I mean, he was serviceable, right? He was a former returner at Iowa. But he's fair catching it more than 90% of the time, and you're sure-handed guy. So I would not be surprised if we do that again come playoff time, because I don't see McCole Hardman's days lasting very long in Buffalo up there.
Yeah, at least you got one return out of him. He'll take that and, run with it. So there you go. But yeah, I kind of noticed the promotion myself, and I was like, that's probably not a great indictment on this return team if McCole Hardman's coming off the couch and doing just that. But we do have Judah saying there was no reason we shouldn't have made a move at the deadline. Yes, Zach and I will get into that. Olivia joining us. Love our lady listeners. B-Shuck in the house saying, what's up, folks? What's up, B-Shuck? Pep and step and bring back JPP. His leadership alone is worth it. Yeah, well, I guess so. But Zach, what say you on kind of the reason Brad gave that's a little more concerning even than, hey, all right, well, maybe this Bills team just cream of the crop return. And it's like, nope, the Bucs just that bad, I guess, in special teams coverage, which we kind of know at this point.
Yeah, we've seen it all season. I really think it's a culmination of guys are playing special teams that probably weren't destined to play special teams at the beginning of the season due to all the injuries and the call-ups. I put it out on Twitter on yesterday evening. We're really missing Keith. Like, if you don't understand the impact that dude has on special teams, like, then you don't know ball. He was one of the best. He actually has been the best special teamer that we've had in like the last couple of seasons. So his injury is really being felt. It is concerning when they're pulling guys off the free agency heap and they're gashing us every single time to where Allen needs 2 first downs and they're in field goal range. I know the wind played a little bit more of a factor on the field goal game yesterday, but the point's still there. If that doesn't get shored up, that's going to be a problem going forward with the new kickoff rules to where, and now these guys are routinely making 50-plus yard field goals. So you give up a big return and now two first downs and teams are in field goal range. So you're basically giving up points. So like I'm all for just kicking the damn thing through the end zone and letting them start at the 35. At least that gives us a little bit better of a chance.
Yeah, I'm down with that at this point. I think we'd be better off at giving the other team the ball at the 35 every point at this time. I mean, the amount of times it came down to Chase McLaughlin, I know he never made a tackle, but it's like, come on, if the kicker's getting that dirty on kickoff returns, something's awry with the return coverage. And then just their special teams in general, it's outside of Chase McLaughlin. Riley Dixon had a pretty good game yesterday, I will say. I thought the punting play was there, but it's like, my gosh, just regression each game seemingly. Just concerning is that you would hope that the Bucs special teams was turning the corner there for a minute, and yesterday it just completely unraveled, and we'll see if anybody's held with discipline. I mean, we've been seeing some practice squad elevations the past couple of weeks. Nothing against those young pups, but hopefully we try something new, because if we're letting up field position at a premium against the Rams, they're going to take just as much advantage as the Bills did, just as much advantage as New England did. They're going to find Kyron Williams, and that's what I'm worried about, but we'll talk about that later. We're not here to rant about the Rams. But, yeah, it's going to be ugly if we can't fix our return problems. Jenny's joining us, saying good evening, fellas. Jenny from the block, good evening to you. Love the ladies. 4th and 2, defense gassed, and we punt. Unbelievable. Yeah, Brad, as a Bills fan, what was your take on that? I was watching the game with a couple of people, and when it was 4th and 2 and we punted that late in the ball game, you're kind of sitting back and thinking to yourself, what the hell are we doing there for a minute as a Bucs fan, at least? Because A, it's late in the game and, thin on time, and 4th and 2 seems very doable, especially this day in football. And the last but not least, the Bills are scoring at will regardless. So to me, it didn't really matter if we gave them the ball at their own 10 or our own 50 at that point.
Yeah. Luckily, McDermott has learned his lesson, because we've lost to those Chiefs in the games in the past. We've lost those shootout games. And to start this year, if you remember, it was 41-40, crazy comeback versus the Ravens week 1. So it's almost like you have to prepare for that. Once you see that, that's how the game's going. right, is you call it a game differently when it's 7-7 and it's 10-10, whatever you want to call those low running games. When you know it's going to be 40-40 last person with the ball, you better start preparing for it in the third quarter, kind of with your strategies. But there was actually a call early in the game too. And right when you noticed that the coaches were like, we're not kicking these deep field goals, is I want to say you were already up 3-0 or something in the first quarter. It was 3rd and 7. It was the ball that was bobbled off of a Tez Johnson deflection. And I kind of questioned the play call there. Is there was back-to-back good runs by Tucker, who, I mean, had a phenomenal game. We'll probably get into that. But back-to-back good runs. And it's 3rd and 7, and you're throwing at 15 yards. And the Bills were in a soft shell coverage when I was watching the All 22 a couple minutes ago. And you run the ball there knowing for it you're going on 4th down, right? Is you see it all the time. A different play call on 3rd down if you know damn well you're going for it the very next play, right? And it was almost from the get-go. And, I mean, I think they were efficient on 3rd down, 9-16 for the Bucs. But I would have probably went for 5 of those 6 that you didn't get, right? And I mean, there's so much of the game keeping the ball away from Josh Allen, from these great quarterbacks. And as a Bills fan, it never really felt like we dominated the game because the field possession thing. And looking back at time of possession, you guys had the ball 35 minutes in the game. It's not like you weren't doing a good job of running the ball and taking the clock away, but just continue to do that, right? Is why get away from it, is keep 17 off the field. Just how we learned as Bills fans, keeping 15 off the field is sometimes the best we can do on offense, right? And we never really got Cook going. We didn't really try to get that time possession game. So I think it was definitely something you guys could take an advantage. And to the last point, and I'll get back to it, is on that very call, tells you everything you need to know about that 4th and 2. The Bills kept their defense out on the field. So you watch that punt return, we're in a 4-by-3. We think no way you're punting the ball, right? So you watch that film back and you're like, anytime, defense goes safe, right? As an offensive coach, you kind of got to look in the mirror. Okay, they're going safe for a reason, right? Should we be going? So, hey, as a Bills fan, please punt it back to 17. But, I wouldn't make that call.
Yeah, and even if you think as a head coach, if I'm Todd Bowles, and I love Todd, I'm not going to be, you're having people clamoring at the bit to fire Bowles today and everything. It's like, please, I get it, big plays are being had, but hopefully he adjusts. But one of the things is, too, if your hope is, maybe we'll get lucky in a big play punt, and it's like you already kind of used that card earlier in the game with the muff punt, too. So even if you think, well, maybe we'll make the ball bounce a certain way, the odds of 2 muff punts in the same half of football are pretty rare too. So just every factor working against Todd. But yeah, giving the ball back to 17, he's a surgeon out there, just not smart. And by the way, we are without our 2 best pass rushers as well, Kalijah Kancey and Hassan Reddick. So that's another factor, right? It's not like, okay, we have our big dogs here, Kancey and Reddick. Maybe we could contain Allen a little bit. It's like, no, Allen's had himself a day, and he's going to continue to have himself a day. Cleve and me making a wrestling reference, Bill's Mafia Invasion with Brad Dolph Ziggler with the long blonde flow. I love it, Brad. Not sure if you're familiar with Dolph Ziggler at all, but good guy there. Zach, what say you? Not Dolph Ziggler, maybe. Well, you could say something on Ziggler if you want, but Zach, what say you in kind of Brad's point where, just giving the ball time and time again to 17, odds are he's going to pop one like he was all game.
Yeah, I also don't want it to miss this point. The officials really screwed us a couple of times on the spot of the ball. There were a couple times where it's clearly a first down, and then they call it short, and then we put us in short yardage. And also, just real quick, what's the point of a chip in the ball if it only works off where they spot it, not where the actual ball was during the actual play? Did you pick that up in the game? Like, there's a chip in the ball.
And one you're talking about.
Yeah. So there's a chip in the ball, and it's not like where it was while the play was live. It's where they spot it is then when they use the virtual measurement. So how's that any different than them just spotting the ball and using the chains? Like, it didn't make very much sense to me at all. But anyway, like my whole stance on the thing was that 3rd and 2, with the way we've been running the ball, especially inside, you run it there. And maybe you get 1, and now you're in a 4th and 1, and then you go for it again. You don't punt the ball back there. I understand there's 5 minutes left, and Todd's all like, we thought we had plenty of time to get the ball back. We were going to get a stop. But if you really, truly believe in your defense, then why aren't you going for it on 4th down? Because it wouldn't matter if you were right there at midfield or if you punted it down. So I don't believe that mentality. I'm not a fan of it. Tucker had a big game with the explosive plays, but Rashad was really gritty in there between the tackles, and and getting he picked up a lot of first downs yesterday. So I would have rather have seen him get two goes at it right there than to punt the ball away. There's just certain dudes you don't put the ball back in their hands when the game's on the line because you're going to pay for it, and Josh is one of those guys. Especially when you do get into a 3rd and 11, and then Zion plays so far off that the guy bobbles the ball in the air and still has time to recover it, catch it, get his feet in bounds, and convert a 3rd and 11. That's why you don't trust your defense in this situation, because it's not like they were playing lights out all game anyway. What faith did we have in them at that point that they were going to get a stop when we needed one?
Yeah, I think that was Curtis Samuel who bobbled that on the sideline and ended up catching that. And I was yelling at Zion as soon as he bobbled it. I'm like, dive at him. He touched it now. Go on, try and make a play, And then Curtis just made a great play with his heels and was able to toe touch into the sideline. And I wasn't a fan of the spots, but whether he got it or not, it's like the technology is broken. The CBS broadcast team was talking about yesterday how little they've used the virtual spotting this year. So what's the point of even doing that if you're barely going to use it? First and foremost, whatever the hell the technology's for, if you're paying for that technology, use the technology. Secondly, yeah, if it's based on referee placement, again, right, wrong, or indifferent of a spot, what the hell's the point? The point should be where the ball actually goes, but the NFL, that's one thing they've missed so far. I think they'll have to revisit that whole technology chip thing and kind of realize that right now it's really providing nothing to the game. It doesn't save time either. It's not like it's like, oh, now we don't have to bring the chain gang out. When they did the virtual measurement yesterday, I don't know if you guys noticed, but it's still like we had to wait around like a minute. And then it's like it shows this virtual football thing. It's like, dude, we all saw that on the field too. You don't need a virtual measurement to, see that he's 1.5 yards short. Really, the only time that virtual measurement, how they're using it, will ever be effective is the 1 in a million per year where they need to pull out the postcard or the index card and measure it like that. But other than that, Brad, that virtual measurement will never be effective because if it's by referee placement, you could easily tell where the ball is by that point in time. So, Brad, I don't know if you're in agreement with that, but that's one piece of technology that I haven't been impressed with so far for the NFL.
Yeah, let me chime in on two things, one from each of you guys. Is on the virtual measurement, it's kind of embarrassing, right? It's a $1 billion industry. Tennis has been doing this for 18 years now. What are we doing? It's ESPN. It's the same broadcast cameras. I have a video background. It's set up the same way. It's mind blowing how far behind the NFL is from that standpoint. The only thing that I can think is about the whole spot thing, trying to reason with what they're doing. You need trackers in the field maybe to have that spot or something, but that's still something very, it's a $1 billion industry. You can afford a couple trackers, but nor here nor there. But on the Curtis Samuel catch, as you brought that up, is how many times did you see Bills receivers run by a defensive back yesterday? I can tell you, I don't think I've seen it one time. I think we tried maybe once. So why are you, to your point, why are you playing, 3rd and bail on 3rd and 11? Just giving us a first down. And we tried to mess it up even, we tried to bobble it out of bounds. That's been, we'll get to the Bills now addressing the receiver position. That's been a reason why we did elevate Gabe Davis for the first time yesterday is we don't have a down the field stretcher. So even to more of your point, right, is that situational football. And we all know Todd Bowles is a good coach, but I would argue that this might have been one of the worst coachings. I don't watch the Bucs games like you do, but situational for sure is, that green dot, whether it's coming from the middle linebacker or from the sideline, it's 3rd and 11. These guys haven't thrown the ball over 14 yards the whole game. What are we doing? Or call the coverage underneath. And I know we touched on pressure with the pass rushers being out, but 0 sacks by the Bucs. And I know last couple of years, a big thing has been not blitzing Josh Allen because he's been making people pay. He hasn't proven that this year, though. And you got after him really early, right, to start that game. You were forcing bad throws. Obviously, the two-handed shovel, whatever we're calling that.
Yeah, that one was crazy. I was like, what?
And I mean, the very first play of the game, you shot a corner off the edge, 23 off the edge. And then the very next play, right up the middle, forces that. And then, like I said, he almost threw another one the next drive. And then we got away from it. Then Josh kind of had all the time in the world come third and fourth quarter. And whether it was guys getting tired or whatever, lack of depth definitely contributed to that. But, calling coverage on the back end behind that, if you don't have that pass rush, okay, so let's play defense like that behind it. So obviously we saw Dean go out in this game. I thought Morrison played pretty well. But I'm like, obviously, I mean, Bill's run game ended up being something with Josh Allen at the end of that thing. But
yeah, running backs are, running game, I should say. And, the wheel passing game is killing us. I feel like these backs are killing us on the scat pack routes. We'll get into that here. Pop's texting in the show. The 4 teams we lost to are beaten 30, or the record of 31-9 could have beaten at least 3 of them. Comes down to 2 to 3 plays a game, parity at its best execution. That's what Zach and I were alluding to earlier as well. We're losing close ones most of the time outside the Detroit game, where, hey, maybe 1 or 2 plays we're able to execute on or do, like, not blaming our offense at all. But even if Baker doesn't throw that, maybe the game ends different too, right? Just uncostly times and plays. I will say I agree with you completely, Brad. I think yesterday when we were bringing exotic blitzes, I think it was really working defensive backs on the blitz. I said on our show last week, I think if we bring defensive backs blitzing schemes to the Bills game, good things will happen. When that happened, it looked good. When we only brought the 4 or 5 base packages, seems like nobody was able to get there. And I was on friend of the show's Sports Illustrated's own JCL, and I was on his podcast after we lost to the Eagles earlier this year. And I was like, hey, part of the reason why this Bucs team is so successful early on in defense is that 3rd and 4th down, years past, Bucs defense on 3rd and 4th down got gashed. The first month of the year, we did tremendous on 3rd and 4th down. Past couple of weeks, suddenly, we can't get off the field again on 3rd and 4th down. And that's just how drives extend. That's how guys get tired. And next thing you know, that's how a guy like Josh Allen ends up with 3 rushing touchdowns because the defense has the hands on the hips because they were just out there for 12 plays. And you were 1 or 2 plays away multiple times from stopping the Bills on 3rd and 6, 3rd and 9, 4th and 7, whatever the case may have been. But they just were not able to do that. And that is the difference in football games, right? If the Bills have to kick a couple field goals or punt, maybe that ends different. But the fact of the matter is they converted those 3rd and 4ths, extended drives. Josh Allen scored 3 rushing touchdowns. And then, come on, the Ty Johnson and James Cook, we're getting beat by that on a weekly basis. Now, you look at the past 3 Bucs losses. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery combo had well over 200 scrimmage yards, multiple touchdowns. Last week against New England, Henderson, 3 touchdowns as his breakout game. Now you look at Ty Johnson, James Cook. In receiving yards alone, they almost had a couple touchdowns. So, Zach, it's just getting to the point where 3rd and 4th down is killing us. And before we get to you, though, on that, Zach, real quick, Brad, what makes you confident in this team to reach a Super Bowl that didn't in years past, if anything, Brad, about your Bills?
Yeah, I'll be quick there. Not as confident as the past few years, for sure. You see glaring holes in this team. Starts with our run defense. Is you can pretty much run at will. We saw it a couple weeks in a row now. A-Chain and Sean Tucker with a little taste of Rachaad White. But yeah, so that run defense is not championship caliber. If you're looking for anything that makes this team different, it's James Cook in that run game. So last year kind of broke out with the 17 touchdowns, and then this year is single-handedly taken over 4 or 5 of these games. So what wins playoff football, in Buffalo, hopefully, you got to be able to run the football. And we constantly save rushing with Josh Allen. I think we actually saw our first QB power this week for one of those touchdowns of the year. But we always have saved those for the playoff time to save Josh. But with that combo and Cook come playoff football, that would give me the most confidence. But at this point, it's too far-fetched to say that we're going to be in the Super Bowl. Way more confident the past 2 years, that's for sure.
Yeah, kind of funny, but if the Bills look dominant, that's how week to week and parity this league is. Bills look dominant, couple more weeks, maybe the script flips on that one, and you never know. But we are live here with the great Brad Thompson of Bills Mafia on the Buccateers. Hit that like button, subscribe button, turn the notification bell on if you like this content. We always get great guests like Brad himself, and then others as well. But Zach, what say you on kind of just this defense, third down gash and fourth down gash and running back gash, and it'll lead us into the deadline convo here next. But what say you on the Bucs kind of getting taken advantage of on third and fourth downs again?
It's becoming concerning because it now appears that these teams are scheming these matchups because they know of Todd's propensity to drop these guys into coverage, into the flats, and they can't take it. Sabasier hasn't taken a good angle all season. Yaya was out there. That really wasn't his man. I believe Morrison floated too far inside because Josh was kind of scrambling around on that big one, but it makes it look like Yaya's way out of position. Nelson, these guys just aren't built to catch a back or a shifty tight end out in space. Tyke is really, really good at that, but he took a bad angle and got kind of washed out of that play, that Ty Johnson play. So it's getting concerning because it happens at the worst possible times, and it seems to now be starting to become a pattern. We've seen it all year, like happened with Bijan in the first game, and we were like, oh, okay, the defense just getting rusty. They're trying to get acclimated to everything. But then it was like every week now we're waiting for that running back to catch a pass out of the backfield and turn it upfield for a 50-plus yard touchdown. So it's definitely becoming concerning. And you would think at some point you would make an adjustment, especially on third and fourth downs, to make sure that that's not going to beat you, right? Like I feel like the strength's in our corners with Parrish and Dean and Zion, and then you got Winfield and Tyke back there. Let those guys man up and really take away those flats.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you really need to see that adjustment to be made, or else it could get ugly. I mean, we still got to face Rico Dowdle twice, who's had an incredible season at this point. Still got Bijan Robinson on the roster. Alvin Kamara, I know he's getting old and not the same, but we still got a lot of viable running backs here on the schedule for this Bucs team to face. And oh, by the way, Kyron Williams is pretty damn good, who we played.
And A-Chain's coming up.
No,
it'll be later in the season, but
hopefully their owner tanks again and benches him on purpose and gets fined a couple million again for tanking. But neither near or there. But Brad Cleve of me says it's funny because the Colts had the same feeling in 2006. Bucs had that feeling at a point in time in 2020, right? We were 7-5 at one point. A lot of people were hating on us, doubting on us, and we got hot. So you never know. But Brad, if you could have fixed up the Bills, and I'll even ask you about the Bucs too, but if you were the Bills or the Bucs GM at the deadline, what do you think one of these teams could have potentially done? Richard joining us says he's hitting the panic button. I'm not there yet, Richard. I am not there yet, my friend, and I'll tell you why in a second. But Brad, what say you? I know you're not going to get anyone on special teams for the Bills, but where would you be looking if you could have added anyone at the deadline?
Yeah. There wasn't the huge names moved that, a lot of people were looking for. There was rumors of AJ Brown, which kind of looks like a blessing in disguise as of this very minute. But is the receiver position has been neglected for the draft, the free agency market, is Beaners went on record and said they didn't need anyone, and then he goes and drafts Keon Coleman second round, and then our big splash is Josh Palmer, right? That's not very sexy to the fan base, and he's putting all the trust in the everybody eats mentality, and it's glaring only because I think a big factor in this game was Dalton Kincaid's out. We've been missing pieces here and there, but I think receiver, if you're going for the Bills, I was actually pretty happy we stood pat, to be honest with you, I don't think it's time to panic, as a listener just said on your boat too. Is we trust 17. It's been 2 years removed from Diggs now, so it's not anything new by any means. We were pretty damn good last year. We'll be probably right back in the playoffs again this year to give it a run. And there's a lot of time to figure it out, and that's how Joe Brady designs his whole offense. Is is looking for opponents' weaknesses. And to your point, is that flat defense, especially out the pass, was your guys' weakness. You know, the wheel route to Cook, the play after that Bishop interception caught him sleeping. Watching that all 22, I couldn't tell whose guy it was, but Levante David looked like he was on him and went for a little run blitz. Got caught peeking for a second and got picked off. But is why put Levante David in that situation, though, to that point, right, is you got great DBs back there. You know, how about let them cover James Cook instead of Levante David. But beside the point is to the back to that is I think for you guys, pass rusher, just because of the injuries, and I mean, you've learned through those championship runs, right? You can never have too many pass rushers. So I think if I were you guys, I'd be splashing there. I don't know if Trey Hendrickson was going to budge or anything like that. If you had any needle movers, as we didn't see any huge names on the defensive end get traded. I don't think you're, mortgaging future for a Quinnen Williams per se. But I would have liked to see probably a pass rusher for you guys.
And Brad, that's where I was in agreement with you as well, right? I think I would have loved a pass rusher, but at the same time, it was kind of like at the trade deadline, not a lot of big time closers move for bullpen help. You had like the one the Phillies got from Minnesota, but kind of the same for edge rushers, right? The Eagles got Jalen Phillips, but outside of that, and he only had 1.5 sacks to this point this year. You had Joe Tryon-Shoyinka get moved to the Bears for more of a depth piece. No other edge rusher got moved, and that's probably what happened with the Bucs. They probably looked into it, probably saw the asking price for some and what they were willing to give, and it didn't match. Now, I'm not saying it's right, wrong, or indifferent that they didn't make a move for an edge because of that reason, but that's probably the justification. Maybe the same reason on why the Bills didn't move for receiver. Maybe the GM was looking at something because the guys available at wide receiver too were kind of the high end. Like you heard rumors of maybe AJ Brown, as you alluded to. Brian Thomas Jr. was another name that kind of got brought up at times, but realistically, those guys are going to be needle movers for the cost point, right? So I really think it was who's available, the value that they're deemed at. I don't think the teams could really meet in the middle on, like, I don't blame, I'm not saying this was what was on the table, but say if the Bucs could have got Matthew Judon for a 3rd round pick, I'm not doing that if I'm the Bucs GM. He hasn't really shown much the past couple of years. Would it be a short-term help? Maybe, but at that point, might as well bring a Shaq Barrett, Will Golston out of retirement and see JPP, what the hell could maybe happen. But I think that is 100% correct. I think Buffalo and Tampa kind of have the same weird hierarchy with the wide receiver position in Buffalo and the edge position in Tampa, where they somehow think that non-first round picks and kind of bargain bin free agents could kind of get him over the top in those categories. Yep. Where you see in Buffalo at wide receiver, you see in Tampa at edge. You could sneak by when you're at the healthiest of points, you still barely sneak by, but it's doable. But as soon as you get a little banged up at those positions and you're thin already, that's when it could get really ugly and the wheels could start falling off. So I think in a weird way, the Gabe Davis signing was actually a big one for Buffalo, even though he hasn't played football in a long time. I mean, that was a good upgrade at that point. But Zach, what say you? I know you were pounding the table on the edge before we get to our last Bills Bucs convo trade deadline talk. What would the Bucs have done in your opinion?
Well, I'm probably going to piss a lot of people off, but I'm not upset that we didn't make a move at the deadline, and here's why. What edges were actually available at the trade deadline?
Exactly.
Crosby wasn't, right? They came out publicly multiple times saying Crosby wasn't. Hendrickson got hurt, plus I don't really think the Bengals were looking to move him. I think they're going to franchise tag him 2 years in a row, and then he'll be past his prime and they'll let him go, right? So you're really looking at Phillips was the only pass rusher that was available. Maybe Chubb, maybe Judon, but again, Phillips got a 3rd. What do you think those other 2 guys are going to command, right? And Phillips isn't worth a 3rd, right? I don't believe he's worth 30. He had a 1.5 sacks. He's going to be a half-year rental. And do you honestly think that Todd Bowles is going to put him in the lineup and just say, go get the quarterback, kid? No, he's going to drop him back in coverage, just like he does with Reddick, just like he does with Yaya, just like he does with Nelson. So I didn't want to give up a 3rd-round pick to watch Jalen Phillips play coverage in the flats. I've already seen that movie, and I left early because I didn't like it. So this is the move that should have been made. Every Bucs fan should stop pounding the table at Jason about Jason Licht not making a move during the trade deadline. There was only one edge rusher that was worth trading for that was actually available this season, and that's Micah Parsons. And that could have happened in the offseason, and he would have been ready to go by the time the season started because you would have got him in there before the season started. Todd Bowles' defense isn't a plug-and-play defense, right? These guys off the edge don't just go get the quarterback. They play coverage. They do all these things. So even if we would have traded for Phillips, he would not have been ready for 2, 3, 4 games to be ready to go. And then where are you, right? You got a handful of games left, and you've given up a third-round draft pick for him. But going to get Parsons in the offseason, you would have been ready to go. And that would have put this defense over the edge. And that's considering that he lets them just go get the quarterback and not play all the coverage. Like, Todd does not really prioritize pressure off the edge. He is, and people want to talk about JPP and Shaq, but nobody knew Shaq was going to come in here and get 19 and a half sacks. Nobody, right? That surprised everybody, right? He's always prioritized pressure up the middle with Vita and Cansey and Dominican, right? So the move that fits that is Quinnen Williams. But again, to Brad's point, you're gonna give up a second and a 1 for Quinnen Williams with that salary when Cansey's gonna be back, and then what do you do? Now you got 3 guys that you gotta pay in that roughly play the same position. So there really wasn't a move to be made at the trade deadline. There was a move to be made before the season, but there wasn't one to be made at the trade deadline that was actually going to move the needle as far as pressure goes.
Yeah, and again, as we mentioned earlier, the name you kind of mentioned, or the name that you kind of heard for the Bucs, was Matthew Judon. He has 0 sacks on the year, and he has 9 sacks in his past 3 seasons of football. So do you really want to give up even a 5th or 6th round pick for a guy who's going to come in and perform probably not even better than an Anthony Nelson or Yaya Diaby or Chris Braswell type? I mean, it could have been possible, but again, I think what Brad, I, and Zach are saying are right. The available quantities and what people were willing to give just didn't match up. I mean, so that was that. And yeah, Micah Parsons, we did talk about it. Would have been great if the Bucs were able to do that, but sadly, then you probably wouldn't have been able to extend certain guys you already extended, and we all know how that goes. So it is a rabbit hole. It's a crapshoot, but I truly don't think the cream of the crops, like Sauce Gardner, was available at DB, but what can you do? What can you do? Hey, we can say all we want and not wanting bodies, but Bucs are hurt and need bodies. Oh, not wanting bodies, but I'm not wanting a guy. Matt Judon has 7 tackles and 0 sacks this year. I am not upset that the Bucs didn't acquire him to be an old. He was washing Atlanta. I agree with B. Shuck. No thanks on Judon yet. Like, I just don't give draft capitals for useless players, but not useless. We did get a super chat from our guy B Shuck. Thank you for the super chat, B Shuck. We appreciate that. $20 donation into the show. That was very much appreciated. Phillips, a 3rd, and a rental. But yeah, I mean, we could argue all day. Our team didn't get an edge rusher. Could we? Was that a position of desire? Yes, but again, what would have been out there? Yeah, I mean, you want to look at his drafting edge, JTS, Yaya Diaby, some other guys. I mean, Yaya Diaby for a 3rd round pick, I think he's pretty good for a 3rd round pick. It's not like he was a 1st round pick. But Brad, do you have the same problem? Is it one of those things in Bills Mafia where you guys don't do something and next thing you know, it's like, oh, we should have got this guy, should have got that guy. And it's like, well, Bills Mafia, this guy's washed already. That's why. Is it kind of the same in Bills land where the minute something goes wrong, the GM's at fault?
I think it's the same everywhere that you're good, right? Is once the level of play rises, then you have higher expectations. Back in 2012, is if the Bills were in the game, that was a win, And so if we're not blowing out people, people are calling for this, calling for that. Last year we didn't want to pay Cook. Well, now no one's saying that. And then it's a wide receiver. If Josh reels off 3 or 4 of these games in a row, no one will even be talking about it. And it was quite working with our scheme this year with featuring Kincaid and Cook and Johnson and all these guys. So it's not too much on that. But you do hear it on Bills talk all the time, right? Is why didn't we do this? Why didn't we do that? And the fan base is always split. So, you sign a guy like Jordan Poyer, you'd think everyone would be ecstatic. Why are we bringing back this Wash guy? And now he's, our starting safety a couple injuries later. But so, yeah, we see the same thing up in Buffalo for sure. But I think it's a little bit of a compliment because it means you guys have high expectations.
I agree with you. And this is another case, right? Zion McCollum and Rich, this is a good point. Everybody wanted to extend Zion. Now he had like 1 or 2 bad games, and now everyone's like, oh my God, we extended Zion. And now, so it's just like one of those things where, well, everybody wanted to extend him, and then we extend him. He has a bad game or 2, and now we can't get X, Y, or Z because of the extension. So this isn't Madden, folks. This is real life. It is a little bit tough for those GMs out there. I totally disagree on getting rid of Bowles. I mean, Liam Cohen, no. I think that's a terrible. I get upset of the people that say we should have got rid of Bowles for Cohen. Like Cohen is just out there doing great things. Look at what Liam Cohen already did, giving up a couple first rounders, big time draft capital for a guy like Travis Hunter who's already out for the season. I mean, Liam Cohen isn't perfect by any means. Everybody's acting like, oh my God, this guy is. If you're going to be talking about anyone, it should be Ben Johnson, not Liam Cohen. But Brad, I mean, and again, another example of kind of just, people saying things to say them. But Brad, kind of last words on Bucs Bills. Where would you put both of these teams at the end of the season? Where do you see the Bucs and the Bills as we wrap up Bucs Bills talk, finishing their 2025 season?
Yeah. I mean, much hasn't changed coming into the year. I think both teams have experienced similar ups and downs. Injuries have caused a little havoc for both squads as well. I like the Bucs as the 2 seed coming in on the NFC side. Not much has changed. The NFC West is pretty crazy, so I'm still not sure who's going to win that guy out there. Your big game Sunday night might have a little indication towards that. But I do think 2 seed definitely pretty reasonable for you guys. The NFC has a lot of parity, right? I mean, you got the Bears at the 3 seed right now. A lot could change by the end of it. On the Bills side I would like to say that, well, this is the year we'll get the number 1 seed as Kansas City sits 5-5, but the Pats and Broncos both have a kind of easy route. I do think it's going to be one of those teams. So you will see the Bills and Chiefs, maybe even the Ravens on the road come to playoffs. So it'll be crazy AFC. Kind of the upper echelon teams will be the road teams, and all these newcomers like Drake May and Bo Nix will be the home team. So the AFC is kind of getting a little bit of a shakeup per se. I would like to think that we're built for playoff football, with the run game evolution this year. So as Joe said, in 2006, they didn't feel like it was our year, but the Bills are a couple games away from having this whole fan base equally as riled up. I think the Bucs are in the same point with the NFC being wide open. I don't think the Lions or Eagles looked unbeatable last night. I fell asleep in the third quarter. That's how exciting that one was. So I think that is up for grabs. To this point, just to wrap up this game, I think this was actually probably Baker's worst game, in my opinion. I mean, if you take Tucker out of that game, do you score 17, 18 points even? So if Baker plays like that and you're still in the game, he's played phenomenal this year. There's MVP talks a couple weeks ago, and then has probably his quote worst game of the year, and you're still a 1 possession game in the fourth quarter with a contending team. So if Baker plays like how he was the first few weeks of the year, gets it together, obviously some injuries on the defensive side of the ball, I don't think anyone's seeing you guys coming or worried about it, because the Lions and the Eagles are still the talk of the town. But that NFC could very well go through Tampa Bay.
I would love that. I think Zach would love that. And, it's been a lovely convo in total for the Bills and Bucs for the year of 2025. Ups and downs, surely. But I think at year's end, both of these teams will be in the dance. And all you need to do is get to the dance to have a shot. We know that. And, Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield are both hungry at trying to get their first ring and prove a lot of haters wrong, because as good as both are, a lot of them have, both of them have a lot of haters. But Brad, before we let you go, my friend, kind of give the people where they can keep up with you on social medias. Any last words you might want to say for Bills Mafia or whatnot? And we hope to have you back soon, brother. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, of course, right? If all goes well, we'll meet in about 12 weeks, breaking down the Super Bowl. How great would a media day be with Baker Mayfield and Josh Allen, man? Oh
Did
my
you
God.
see them having fun this week where they
Oh, yeah.
asked Baker about Josh Allen? Yeah, oh, he's so tall, his hands are tiny. And then they asked Josh about Baker. Oh, he just is mad because he is bad at golf. And, you know,
And remember, obviously, that they went through the draft process together. So, I mean, they became pretty close, and they've always been like that, back and forth throughout the years. So that would be a hell of a media day come February. But yeah, you can catch me at Dr. Brad Thompson on Twitter. Appreciate all the follows there. But yeah, I mean, I don't think this is anything to be hanging your heads about. If I was a Bucs fan, one play here or there. This game's in Tampa. You never know that the Bucs win this game. So I wouldn't be hanging your heads by any means. It'll be a long year. And like you said, hopefully we'll see you back here in 12 weeks to come Super Bowl week. That'd be awesome.
yeah, hopefully we see you 12 weeks, but someone you might see a little sooner is the Colts. And quick thoughts on them before you bounce out of here, Brad. How do you see them finishing their season?
A couple words for all the listeners. Take the over on Jonathan Taylor. I don't care if they set it at 220 yards. Take the over. Oh my God, I don't think the story's written on Daniel Jones yet, whether this is the truth or not. It's kind of going through the Sam Darnold phase right now. Is he real or is he in? But who is real is Jonathan Taylor. And what the Bills' weakness is? That run defense. Not to any ripes on Sean Tucker, but it's a couple games in a row that it's just been manhandled up front. We're missing Ed Oliver. He's not back anytime soon with torn biceps. So we're worried about the Colts for sure. Any team that can pound the rock like that definitely does not bode well with the Bills' run defense. So we'll definitely have our works cut out for us. Obviously, it's a really tough team right now.
Yeah, it's going to be incredible, and it's going to be a bunch of MVP candidates, Taylor, Allen, a lot of guys making a case. Our MVP of Bills Talk, Dr. Brad Thompson, leaving the program. Brad, thanks so much again. Try and enjoy the Monday Night Football matchup as much as you can, bro. They're going to be an interesting one between Jerry Jones and the Raiders.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I'm taking the under on that note.
Yeah, all right, brother. We'll ride it with you. Have a great night, my friend.
You as well. Take it easy, guys.
Thanks again, Bills Mafia finest. Brad, Zach, that was a lot of fun, and we're going to get to Sharpie talk for a little bit here, autograph talk as well. But Richard says Bucs fans are mad because it's the same. I get it, but Zach, again, my point is, and I'm not here. I'm not a homer. I'm not a nutsucker. I'm not a Bucs rider. I call out the Bucs when they need to be called out, but we're shorthanded going against the best of the best in competition. These things surely do need to change. That's not a doubt. But at day's end, it could be a lot worse for a Buccaneers team that's 6-4 leading their division right now, very banged up.
Yeah, I agree, and I get the frustration, man. And I think what really adds to the frustration is when Todd's an oppressor and he's like, "Oh, we got to coach it better and we got to execute it better." And it's like, man, that's the same thing you've been saying since your first year as a coach. But what do you really want him to say? Do you want him to throw the players under the bus and then lose the locker room? Transparency isn't always the best answer. That's why they call it coach speak, right? They're going to give you a little bit of stuff, and then behind closed doors, they're going to try to work on fixing the problem. Todd's not going to throw these dudes under the bus. We know what's happening. Communication is a very broad term that means somebody effed up, right? That's what it means. I think the part that frustrates me the most is as many of these running back wheelwrights or in the flats that we give up, you would think we would run more of them in practice to get the defense to, a little bit more apt to them. But then you see it in the game and you see Rashad's basically doing jumping jacks out in the flat half the time. And the progression doesn't even go over there. Baker missed him again for an easy touchdown on that one where he tried to throw it to Otten. He then scores on the second down play. But the first down play, man, Rashad peels right off and nobody goes with him. But that's kind of the recipe all season. But, we're never going to get a straight answer. Let's look at the injuries, right? Fibula, a foot, a shoulder. It's not Todd's nature to give out too many details, right? And we honestly, as fans, aren't really owed any of that stuff, right? So it's just going to be frustrating, and you're just going to have to accept that he's addressing it with the players and the coaching staff behind closed doors, but he's not going to tell you anything And I hate the coaches' press conferences after the game. The ones that really irk me the most are the ones going into halftime and out of halftime. Like, how many more canned responses can we get? It's like you turn the set off and just listen to the volume. You don't even know what coach it is because they all say the same stuff, right? So you're just never going to get the level of detail that you want to get when it comes to these things.
Yeah, and I believe it was a college game, might have been NFL, but I was watching a game this weekend where, like, as Cleveland Me says, great stuff, we appreciate it, but some coaches heading back onto the field and they were like getting pounded out there, and the reporter kind of made a comment like they seemed a little upset, like they didn't want to talk. It's like, yeah, no shit. They're down 30-3 right now at half, or whatever the case might be. The last thing they want is a microphone in their face trying to say, what's going wrong? Oh, everything, So it's one of those, just one of those things that irk you a little bit as a fan. And I'll never call out any specific meet, but it's like, man, some of the questions that Bowles gets asked on a weekly basis, it's like, really? That's what you're going to come to the presser with out of everything that you could have asked this guy? That's your best bet. So I don't really blame Todd on his shortness with the media at times. Not saying that, it's all dandy flowers and great, but I totally get why he does it. And B, the less info you give out, I know it's gamesmanship, but, the more the other team's going to have a hard time hey, is this guy going to play? Is this guy not going to play? Is he hurt? Is he healthy? It's going to leave the other team in more of a tougher spot. No, Richard, never take blame. Never take blame. Superstitions are real, but just remember, your jersey isn't the one making plays on the field, brother, right? I always tell myself that too. It's like, okay, if I put my phone like this, or if I put my phone like this, or, I'm like angling my phone, like, all right, this type of phone angle is going to make the Bucs score a touchdown. I love doing things like that too. And I'm the same type of way, but at days end, I always tell myself, it's like my fiance, poor Olivia, she's always like, oh, I'm 0-5 at Bucs games. It's my fault. It's like, no, it's not. Like, hey, I get it. It's superstitious, but it's like, yeah, the Bucs don't. Oh my gosh, Olivia's in the stadium. All right, let's play bad today. So things just happen. And speaking of things happening, Zach, sometimes you look at an autograph and it's like, holy, what the hell happened there? It might be a little bit hard to see. It might be a little smeared. It might be a little bit thin or thick, and autographs are important out there, Zach. Some people don't really care, right? Some people are like, oh, that's an autograph. They could care less if it's on a napkin, if it's black on navy, if it's whatever the case might be. But aficionados like me and yourself care. So for the next 10 minutes or so, we're going to do a little bit of autograph nature, kind of giving examples of colors and types of pens you might want to be using out there when it comes to autograph specific, Zach. So I thought I'd kind of lead in with you first here, kind of just giving the people the basics and the foundation on what type of pen you should be using and why color matters. Real quick, we are joined by El Monito and David Ferrara on Facebook Live. We do appreciate it. But Zach, kind of give the basic collector, I should say, the rundown on the basic principles of type of pen and type of color choice they might want to think about.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, what people need to understand is black is not always the best option. It seems like black is always the go-to. Anytime you go to a signing and you look around, the pen that most people have in their hand is black. It's not always the best call. Sometimes, absolutely it is, but not always. And then you got your two major types. You got your quote-unquote Sharpie class, which is your permanent marker, and then you have your paint pen. I'm a huge proponent of paint pen. I think it does a much better autograph. It pops more, in my opinion, but it's all what you like. So the best suggestion that I can give to anybody is test the pen before you go get the autograph, right? Because not only do you got to worry about color, you also need to worry about like the tip, like the thickness of the pen. You got 0.5 millimeter, 1 millimeter, 2 millimeter, 4 millimeter. So you really need to look at how the pen is going to write. Sign your name on something. I'm not saying on the item that you're getting autographed, obviously, but sign your name on something so that you can see how the pen is going to react. Because the last thing you want to do is hand a pen to somebody and it doesn't work, because then they're going to hand your shit back to you and you don't get anything. So you need to make sure that it's ready to go and it's going to look good. testing it, and you want to test it on something that's similar, so you know what it looks like, right? You have an 8x10, and you have a black Sharpie, and you get to the event, you hand it to them, they sign it, they hand it back to you, and you can't see it, right? So it's important that you test it out. You can get, especially if you're doing a picture, just print out a couple extra so you can then test the different type of pen types on it. If it's a canvas, you can always use the back of the canvas, because usually the canvas is wrapped around the edges and then stapled to the wood frame. So you've got some area back there that you can kind of test it and see the different colors. And really think about the placement of it, because if it's a dark section of the item, you want to use a lighter color pen, because then it'll make more of an impact on it. If you're unsure of where they'll sign it, you tape the area off with some like blue masking tape and write "sign here" on it. And then when you hand it to them, they'll know exactly where you want them to sign it at. But just don't go with black because it's like the staple, because you're going to run into a situation where you get a really bad autograph because you're using the wrong pen color.
And it seems like a basic word of advice, but never just bring one, right? Never bring one pen, because if that one, these guys are players are signing in, people are human. You never know if somebody accidentally takes it, or maybe it stops working, because those are players, they're going quick. Maybe they press it too hard, or something happens where you need a backup pen. So I see it all the time where someone's like, "Dad, I don't know what happened to my pen." And then it's like, "Well, kid, you could borrow mine, no problem." But at days end, always be prepared with extra pens. And as Zach said, black isn't always the best. I remember, I should just say dark in general, right? Because a lot of people, if it's not black, maybe like a dark purple or dark pink will pop. Well, odds are 80% of items that get signed, maybe not 80, but a lot of items that get signed are of the darker nature of the color shade. So if you think about it like that, odds are a dark pen probably isn't going to be the best solution there, right? So like when I went to the Arians Family Foundation golf out and I wasn't really thinking it through, I bought a black Sharpie black mini helmet, get Jason Light's signature. Still cool, but you kind of got to see it under a certain angle of light. I was moving quick and wasn't really thinking. I wasn't even going to get many autographs here. But bottom line is, prepare for what you're going to battle for, right? Hey, if you're bringing a dark mini helmet to get signed, research, and kind of it's up to you too, but research what color might look the best for that specific item. And then specifically on the item, paint pens are the way on most things these days. Obviously, if you want to make the case for jerseys or like fabric type of material, I get your point. Maybe paint pens aren't the best there, but if it's actually a hard material, hard plastic, a metal item, a rock, something of that nature, Zach, I almost go paint pen every time now, because it just looks so much more bold, so much more crisp. And Zach, it might not add value necessarily, but one thing I noticed with paint pen more as well, it's a lot harder. Like it doesn't fade as easily, it doesn't diminish as easily as a potential Sharpie does as well.
Right, and it won't bleed on certain items too. Like those white panel footballs are really bad for bleeding, but a paint pen will hold up a little bit longer. And here's a pro tip with the mini helmet. If you're unsure of the color of pen to use, if you flip the mini helmet over, you have a lot of space on the inside to test the color to see if it pops, right? So, and be creative with your color choices. They're doing those red helmets now. White looks really good on those, but also a sleeper pick is orange, man. Orange really pops on those red helmets. It pops on the white helmets. It's part of the color scheme. I really try to match up my pen color to accentuate a color on the item that I'm getting signed. So it just adds another layer to it for me. I'm also, just really OCD about that stuff as well. But, make sure they do those breast cancer awareness helmets and they're typically white. Get that signed in pink. That's going to be a lot cooler than a black signature on that helmet that's got all those pink accents. But a paint pen is my go-to. The thing that you got to worry about with a paint pen is, and this is why you want to test it before you leave the house, is because you got to prime it before you get there. You don't want to get there and then your pen's not primed and now you're panicking and you missed your window. But it's real important to test them before you hand a pen to somebody to know how the pen's going to perform.
Yeah, and that's 100% right. You said that because I feel he didn't do anything bad, but poor Tyke Smith, when he was signing some stuff at the Jets-Bucs game, you could see somebody kind of gave him like a jagged pen a little bit. And poor Tyke's like trying so hard to get his autograph on the item. And, he's a nice guy, so he was angling the item. And eventually he signed it well, but you could tell it took him because the pen was faded. And it's like, that's another thing. These athletes, they're trying to sign things for everybody. Be a little courteous in that way too, where, hey, if they got to maybe take 4 or 5 minutes to try and sign something based on me having the wrong pen type or a bad pen, that's probably 3 or 4 other fans who might not get an autograph now because, they had to spend the time of me needing to get a new pen because I didn't like how the autograph turned out, or maybe the pen's faulty. So be kind of courteous of other autograph newcomers too. And Zach, one other thing, pen type or not, I think this has been a big discussion in wrestling and sports a little bit lately as well. Never make people with a pen. The last thing you should do is approach somebody like this. Like, hey, start off the convo, be like, hey, how you doing? Such a big fan of yours. And kind of just start it as a normal convo. And then, Zach, if the time's appropriate, that's when you kind of wiggle in for an autograph. You see so many people at airports, at hotels, at weird places nowadays, just like this right off the bat. That's I mean, some guys still might be nice and sign for you, but Zach, at day's end, that's kind of against autograph 101 right there. It's kind of rude a little bit.
Absolutely. Never assume that that's what's going to happen. You want to, ask, be polite, and don't be somebody that's got 75 different things to be signed. It's a real quick interaction. If you do lucky enough get something signed, one thing, and then thank them for the experience and move on about your life. If you have a bunch of stuff that you want to get signed and you want to get it signed a particular way, they have paid signings for that stuff. But if these guys are going to sign on their own time for free, you need to be respectful and courteous of their time as well.
Zach, if you could name one biggest pet peeve of yours with marker type, color type, just signings in general, what would you say it is?
Oh man, black on a pewter helmet, man. It just gets me every single time, man. That and the black on the red numbers for the Bucs jerseys. Black just doesn't look good on there. It kind of camouflages in because the border of the numbers is so bold. You want to go with a chrome or a silver on the red numbers on a jersey. It just looks so much better. But black on the pewter helmet, man, that gets me. It's like, why? You can't even read, especially if it's in that front piece, the front that kind of goes up around the crown of the helmet. It's darker in that area. Or signing on the logo. I've seen that a couple times, and I don't like that either.
And you know what else I hate too, and to each their own, right? But I hate when like you're getting a jersey or shirt signed, and you just get it like you use a Sharpie, and it's a really thick Sharpie, and it's not on the number or lettering, and then like when the shirt sign, you can't even tell whose signature it is because the Sharpie's so the material's not the right thing for that Sharpie either. So I think that's one of my biggest pet peeves is like not lining up the item and the pen properly. Color aside, I think color is a big part of it too, but I'm just going to go something different here. Like I have a couple game used helmets here, and it's like somebody got this Mike James game used helmet I have. Somebody got it signed like A with the Sharpie thickness that's like like it's way too thick. Like, it's disgustingly thick. And B, they got it signed on the damn Buccaneers logo of the helmet too. And it's just like, what are we doing? And then it's all smudged and faded and everything too. So what's even the point of getting I guess my thought is, Zach, before we close things out here, if you're going to get something autographed and it's out of your control, right? Like we talked about through the mail autographs a couple weeks ago, those are kind of, you get what you get, you don't throw a fit. Those are lucky anyways. But if it's in your control and you're seeking an autograph, why not do it the right way? What's even the point of getting an autograph if you're going to do it the wrong way and it's going to look bad? Yeah,
you definitely have to plan it out. Like if you're serious about it, like if you're just wanting to get something signed because you think it's cool, then, live your life. But if it's like part of a collection, something that you're going to keep and cherish, you really want to think it out, especially when you go into these events, right? Don't take a card, don't take an 8x10, don't take a hat, right? Really think these things out. Like the Bucs do a great job every year. They do a free signing for like the season ticket holders before one of the training camps, and you can bring something in there and get signed. And you see the same thing every year. You see the footballs and you see the helmets, right? And then you see a bunch of posters and pennants and hats. Like that stuff's great, but that's a great opportunity to take like a unique item to and get it signed, because you don't have to worry about mailing it into a paid signing. You don't have to worry about paying an upgrade premium charge. You don't have to worry about the shipping process of it. They make a lot of cool, unique things that you can do. I've got two Lombardis from the 2 Super Bowls. I took those. I took the one on the cruise. There wasn't really anybody there from the 2020 Super Bowl, so except for Will. But I got Brad and Mike and Derek and Dexter Jackson all on it, and it looks amazing, right? And I didn't have to ship it, and I didn't have to pay for it. I had the right pen because I tested it before we left the house, and it was all serendipitous. But that's the kind of that's the kind of opportunity you want to seize to get those harder to get type items signed.
That's 100% correct too. And hey, if that's all you have, maybe, or that's the only things you got, cool. But if you have the opportunity to expand to something awesome, it's always cool when you look at the unique things that I have signed. At least like in Secret Santa one year, a buddy knows I'm a Bucs fan, and I like I like some good cigars. So he got me like a cool, like it's like a fake Bucs cigar, but it's like Swisher Sweets package of like the Bucs, and it looks like it holds a couple cigars. Now nothing's in it or whatever, but I brought that to Indianapolis with me a couple years back, and I actually had Bruce Arians, Rondé Barber, Tom Moore, and Chris Myers all sign that thing, and it's pretty cool, right? People are always like, oh, what's that? And I'm like, oh, this is a Bucs cigar thing signed by these guys, and they're like, wow, that's pretty cool. And it is cool, getting unique things signed. I know the canvases are a big hit. A lot of people like those. Those look really good. And the players always like it a little more too, right? When they're going to sign something funny or funky or out of the box, they're kind of like, wow, where'd you get this? Or wow, where'd you get that? Like when we were at a wrestling con, me, my brother, and Jake Jahimick a couple years back, he brought all these like mini helmets with different wrestlers decals on them. And see, like the football or baseball or hockey, that's kind of overdone, the mini helmet thing. But right. The wrestling, that's kind of cool, right? Like you literally heard Jeff Jarrett, like, because I have a mini helmet with his logo on. He's like, where did you get this? This is awesome. It's like a lot of the unique interactions kind of strive off the unique items and whatnot. Like I know different things, but yeah, it's all about items too. Like I don't know, yeah, just if I were to choose, I do like my mini helmets and 8x10s, but I also like my cool different, like for wrestling, I love signed action figures, paint pens on a signed action figure, not on the action figure itself, but on the box of it. I just love that. And that's kind of rare, and people go, where are you going to fit all that? It's like, I'll worry about that later. I'll display them later. But Zach, last thoughts on autograph collecting in general?
Yeah, unique items make a bigger impact too, because I think these guys get so much stuff shoved in front of them, and they know it's going to get resold. But if you're throwing something up there that's a little bit more personal, a little bit more unique, they know that it's more than likely going to be something that you're going to keep, right? I will tell you, I've done a couple of Comic Cons, and I've taken some of the paintings that my buddy's done, and those have a huge impact. Like I had a guy from Rocky Horror Picture Show that just went over the moon, like wanted me to take his, he handed me his phone to take his picture with the painting. That's not an interaction that you're going to have every single day. So, just kind of think about those things, the little bit more unique thing. Every time I go looking for Bucs memorabilia somewhere, anytime I'm down in Tampa or whatever, I'm looking for the more one-off stuff. And I'm not looking for the mini helmets and the footballs and that kind of stuff. I'm looking for the more unique items that will really kind of stand out in the collection. And there's nothing wrong with those other things. I don't want to put that message out there. It's just myself. I look for the more unicorn type items because I want anybody can just put posters and pictures and stuff up. I want it to be a little bit different. That's like that. That's my niche. You know what I'm saying?
I couldn't agree more, and I think that's why everybody kind of looks at your little museum, I should say, as a good, not even finish point, because I don't know if anybody could get a cave that good, but kind of a good blueprint, I should say, of, hey, this is a opportunity to maybe not just do pictures, just that you could do paintings, you could do jerseys, you could do this, you could do that. And I think you really make great points and make great examples on why collecting is so fun, because it doesn't have to be the basics. It could be what you want to. Hey, if you want to get baseball signed by football players and football signed by baseball players, and that's your fun thing to do, go about it, man. That's half the battle right there. I mean, that's why I got into TTMs a little bit. Now I cool off, but it's kind of just cool. Oh, today I got a letter from Dabo Sweeney signed to me. Tomorrow Dan Patrick. It's like, it's what you want to do that makes the collecting cool. All in all, I'll say 2 big takeaways are: make sure the color of the item and the color of the pen you're getting signed correlate hand in hand, and make sure the material of the pen, whether it's a paint pen or Sharpie, and the material of the item you're signing kind of go hand in hand. Once again, don't use paint pens on t-shirts, and don't use, Sharpies on black mini helmets that are black Sharpies. Just kind of common sense. I don't mean to sound rude, but it's kind of common sense at day's end. But autographs are one of those things that people don't really think about. It's kind of just, do I have a pen? Do I have an item? I'm good to go. It's not really that easy if you're kind of trying to display, right? If you throw it in a drawer and it's kind of just memories, hey, this is signed by Jason Light, look cool, put it back in the drawer, that's fine. But if you're actually displaying it, it might be important to kind of tickle your fancy in terms of taking pride and ownership in your collection. But that's just my 2 thoughts on how I look at it.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
And now it is time for the final words of the program. It was great, Zach. A lot of fun. We talked with Buffalo Brad the first half of the show, getting our Bucs Bills insight on. In the past half of the show, we've been talking sharp signings, autographs, tools, and whatnot. We will not be back next Monday. That'll be our history show with that time. Monday, December. We will, as long as you can make it, December 1st, we will be back with another Mancave Monday. And I'm going to try and do a holiday giveaway for that podcast as well. So I'm going to come up with something fun, creative holiday giveaway. But last thoughts, final words for the program for the Buccateers. We will be back, not tomorrow, we'll be back Wednesday, as I'm actually heading to the Northern Illinois Western Michigan football game tomorrow night. In fact, we'll see you Wednesday, maybe. If not, we'll see you a couple Mondays from now.
All right. I will see you Wednesday.
Yep, let's do it. Final words from me. Go Bucs as always. Don't be a fan who thinks the season's over after a tough loss. I know it's easy. I know the defense doesn't look great, but have faith, have faith, have faith. We spend too much time in the offseason to get ready for the regular season to just give up on the season. So don't give up. Once again, shout out to our friends at A Dude's a Monster for this great audio. And we'll be back Wednesday here on the Buccateers. Tomorrow with the campus kickoff, where we thank Tyler, Richard, Clevemy, Olivia, Jen, Judah, and everybody else for joining tonight. Be shucked for the super chat. And as always, great friend of the show, Brad Thompson, former college football player, Bills Mafia fan, for joining. Zach, I'll see you Wednesday, brother. Bro, we'll put it like that. What's it like? I was actually there in attendance in Cleveland for Coe's first career NFL touchdown, which was awesome. And,
Awesome.
It was a great game. You could hear me on camera. I was just screaming, "Say it ain't so, Coe! Say it ain't so!" Sadly, from there, the game kind of went off the rails a little. That was the last high moment of that game, but it was a great game. Overtime loss, fun time.
Yeah.
But how was that moment for you? Seeing the first, whether it was on TV, in person, wherever you were, seeing his first NFL touchdown. How was that?
Well, dude, I mean, we were at home because it was a away game. We don't travel to a lot of the away games because we can get into that later. But, to watch that and to think I wished I was there live. So to have your video was so cool. And just saying, this is so cool. I mean, that was so cool for us. Yeah, catching it from Tom Brady, right? Like, he's got the ball yet. I mean, first NFL touchdown means a lot, right? I mean, as a dad, that's just so cool to see. And it's just, it was fun to watch. And yeah, it didn't have the outcome we wanted, but still the same. What a memory. What a memory to have, right? So,
And honestly,
cool.
those one of the best guests ever, the Buccateers in the house. You guys hear him on Tampa radio all the time. He's one of the best in the business. My favorite personal in the business. That's why I'm elated tonight. You know, growing up in the Chicago area, you're used to sports radio. That's what gets me through the day. So this man does help get me through the day, I will say, with the Pat and Aaron show at work. Nothing like it. So it's incredible. It looks like we got Stunna bumbling in. I'm Tampa Tones. We are joined by lead goon tonight, host of the Pat and Aaron show of WDAE, Pat Donovan. And it sounds like Stunna is bumbling a little bit. Going to put him on mute for a second until that gets a little clear. But we're joined by Pat
It looks like
Donovan.
Stunna's hanging out with Cheech and Chong in a car with the windows up or something over there.
It does look like we got a little.
No, my camera's broke.
And he was trying to pull me in big time. And then I was like, dang, you know, nothing's happened with Indianapolis yet. Like, I really want to give Indy a chance. And then also I talked to Cody Gruden, you know, once he took over Rich McCann, was still like, well, look, I was like, y'all just give me the opportunity to explore free agency, see what's going on, and then can I make it do it?
All right, everyone, you are tuned into the Buccateers of wide receiver Kalen Geiger, and we are about to have a great pod. This is the Buccateers. You're tapped in, and here we go.